Other prophets, let's quote other prophets. Wilford Woodruff. When I contemplate the condition of our nation and see the wickedness and abominations are increasing, so much so that the whole heavens groan and weep over the abominations of this nation and the nations of the earth, I ask myself the question, can the American nation escape? The answer comes no. Its destruction, as well as the destruction of the world, is sure. Just as sure as the Lord cut off and destroyed the two great and prosperous nations that once inhabited the continent of North and South America, because of their wickedness, so will he them destroy. And sooner or later they'll reap the fruits of their own wicked acts and be numbered among the past. I cannot help it. I would to God that they would repent, that their eyes might be open and see the condition, but the devil has power over them. He rules the children of men. He holds Babylon in his own hands and leads the people whithersoever he will. There are changes awaiting us. They're even at our very door. I know it by the revelations of Jesus Christ. I warn future historians to give credence to my history, for my testimony is true, and the truth of this record will be manifest in the world to come. All the words of the Lord will be fulfilled upon the nations, which are written in this book. The American nation will be broken to pieces like a potter's vessel, and will be cast down to hell if it does not repent. And this because of murders, whoredoms, wickedness, and all manner of abominations, for the Lord has spoken it. And this was taken from The Coming of the Lord by Gerald N. Lund, the Bookcraft book, published in 1972 on page 55. Orson Pratt. What then will be the condition of this people when the great and terrible war shall come? It will be different from the war between the North and the South. You wish me to describe it? I'll do so. It'll be a war of neighborhood against neighborhood, of city against city, of town against town, of county against county, of state against state. And they'll go forth destroying and being destroyed, and manufacturing will in a great measure cease for a time among the American nation. Why? Because of these terrible wars. They will not be privileged to manufacture. There will be so much bloodshed, too much mobocracy, too much going forth in bands and destroying and pillaging the land to suffer the pursuit of local vocations with any degree of safety. That war that destroyed the lives of some 15, 16, 100,000 people, Civil War, was nothing compared to that which will eventually devastate that country. The time is not far distant when the Lord will lay his hand heavily upon the nation. How do you know this? Inquires one. I know from the revelations of God, which are given on the subject. Journal of Discourses, Volume 20, page 51, recorded March 9, 1879. And now his brother, Parley P. Pratt. When will be fulfilled another saying in the same chapter which I have read? For thou shalt break forth on the right hand and on the left. Thy seed shall inherit the Gentiles and make the desolate cities to be inhabited. Now there are a great many cities in the United States that will not be totally destroyed when the inhabitants are swept off the face of the earth. Their houses, their desolate cities will still remain unoccupied until Zion, in her glory and strength, shall enlarge the places of her tents and stretch forth the curtains of her habitation. This is the destiny of this nation. This is the destiny of the Latter-day Saints. Journal of Discourses, 24, page 31. Now I kind of think that that's when the 10 tribes show up. I think they're the guys that end this thing, and they'll help us fill all those things. John Taylor. Kingdoms will be cast down, thrones cast down. This nation and other nations will be overthrown. not because of their virtue, but because of their corruption and iniquity. The time will come, for the prophecies will be fulfilled when nations will be destroyed, thrones cast down, and powers of the earth shaken, and God's wrath will be kindled against the nations of the earth. Journal of Discourse, 17, page 4. Civil war is not the end. Were we surprised when the last terrible war took place in the United States? No. Good Latter-day Saints were not, for they had been told about it. Joseph Smith had told them where it would start, that it would be a terrible time of bloodshed, and that it would start in South Carolina. But I tell you today, the end is not yet. You will see worse things than that, for God will lay his hand heavily upon this nation. They'll feel it more terribly than they have ever done before. There will be more bloodshed, more ruin, more devastation ever before. Write it down. You'll see it come to pass. It's only just starting in. And would you feel to rejoice? No. I feel sorry. I knew very well within myself when the last war was commencing, and could have wept and did weep over this nation. But there is yet to come a sound of war, trouble, and distress, in which brother will be arrayed against brother, father against son, son against father, a scene of desolation and destruction that will permeate our land until it will be a vexation to hear the report thereof. Would you help to bring it about? No, I would not. I would stop it if I could. I would pour in the oil and wine and balm to try to lead the people in the right path, and that will be governed by it, but they would not. Journal of Discourses, Volume 20, page 318. Now, if you want to get the details of this thing that we just talked about, jump on your computer and Google John Taylor's vision, and they will give it to you in some detail. Now let's talk about Heber C Kimball. Heber C Kimball is an interesting prophet. He was a counselor to Brigham Young, and Brigham Young says that Heber C was his prophet. Here's what Heber C says about our day. After a while, the Gentiles will gather in Salt Lake by the thousands, and this will be among the wicked cities of the world. A spirit of speculation and extravagance will take possession of the saints, and the results will be financial bondage. An army of elders will be sent to the four quarters of the earth to search out the righteous and warn the wicked of coming events. All kinds of religions will be started, miracles performed, and will deceive the elect, if such were possible. And persecution comes next, and all Latter-day Saints will be tested to the limit. Many apostatize. Others will stand still, not knowing what to do. Judgments of God will be poured out upon the wicked to the extent that the elders will be called home. Or in other words, the gospel will be taken from the Gentiles and later carried to the Jews. The western borders of the state of Missouri will be swept so clean of its inhabitants that Brigham Young tells us when you return to that place, there will not be so much as a yellow dog to wag its tail. Before that time comes, however, the saints will be put to a test that will try the best of them. Marion G Romney. Just as Jesus has piloted to this land of America the vanguard of each succeeding civilization which has dwelt upon it, so he has made known to them his everlasting decree, that whosoever shall possess it shall serve him, the true and only God, or be swept off when they are ripened in iniquity. Our present civilization is no exception. We who live in America are under this everlasting decree. America's Promise, Ensign, September 1979, page 5. Ezra Taft Benson. You will look to your year's supply as Noah looked to the ark. Describing some of the things that thinking about some of the things we've just talked about, I think that might be true. To get through this time, you might be prepared to be independent of the world for a period of time. Too often we bask in the comfortable complacency and rationalize that the ravages of war, economic disaster, famine, earthquake cannot happen here. But those who believe this are either not acquainted with the revelations of the Lord or they don't believe them. Those who smugly think that these calamities will not happen, they'll somehow be set aside because of the righteousness of the saints, are deceived, and will rue the day they harbored such a deception. Will rue the day they harbored such a delusion. The Lord has warned and forewarned us against a day of great tribulation and given us counsel through his servants on how we can be prepared for these difficult times. Have you heeded his counsel? Benson, November 1980, page 34.